Hey guys, it's Virtual from Zenith Corporation, and welcome to the part 2 of the Reentry video series here. Like I said, I'm not editing the videos because that takes too long, so go watch part 1 if you haven't. I cover a lot of the basics. I'd also like to remind you that having a res node activated means you can instantly stop your ship. So if I force respawn on my ship, it'll actually come to a complete stop. And then also if I log out, Alt F4 for example, the ship will come to a complete stop. However, there is a bit of a caveat. If you're actually carrying a passenger, that passenger must also log out for the ship to come to a complete stop. So basically what this means is that nobody can be within loading range of your ship. I believe loading range is 2 kilometers, so that for the ship to actually come to a complete stop. So if you have a passenger, make sure they Alt F4 too, or whatever that is, especially if you get in a pinch. Also, if you're landing and you know you're going to crash, Alt F4 you before you hit the ground, and you can just hop out your ship and maneuver it down to the ground safely. Now this is a more advanced technique. I'll probably make it look pretty easy because I've done it a few times. We'll see how much luck I have with that. So basically it's like the turn and burn / suicide burn technique where we re-enter the atmosphere backwards and basically tail stand on our engines. This is a more useful method for heavy ships. So as you can see, instead of flying the extra small ship I was flying in part 1, I'm flying a medium ship that actually has 200 tons of cargo in it right now. And now the ship ordinarily can easily do the pull out of the dive method, but once it gets up to its ore carrying capacity, that's no longer possible, and we have to do this more advanced reentry method. Also, sometimes, and I've been known to do this, I'll actually load down my ships past their hover capacity, and you can actually see what your atmospheric acceleration is. So you'll see in the build helper, and I covered that in a previous video, concepts of atmospheric flight. Go watch it. That how many G's of lift or how many G's of thrust your ammo engines produce. So if that is over 1G, then you're good. Also, I am burning perpendicular to the trajectory to change my trajectory. Keep that in mind. Like I was saying, if it's over 1G, you're quite good. You'll be able to float on them. However, if it's not over 1G, then you're going to hit the ground no matter what you do. And sometimes I will actually attempt a re-entry in that case. I just re-enter over the water. So basically, I tail stand all the way until I get near the surface of the water. And then right before I touch down on the water, I just flip the ship around and then use the vertical boosters to hold it up. And this has proven to be a pretty good method, especially for a safe landing. And then also force respawning, but that's more of a cheaty solution. So I'm already going to get myself into position. Keep in mind, like I said last video, litho braking, it doesn't work. Don't try. You're going to want to come down straight onto your target like this. Don't think you can slow down in the atmosphere like you can in Kerbal Space Program, just because it's not how that works. On the topic of atmospheres, like I mentioned in the previous video, I'm saying it all over again just in case you actually don't want to watch the previous video. All the different planets have different atmospheric heights and densities, which means you'll burn at different heights. So just make sure those values are unknown before you attempt a landing there. Because if you're anything like me, you'll end up burning up when you get too close to Feli because you didn't know the atmosphere was 45 kilometers high. I've already begun slowing down a little bit. You should definitely make sure that you have decent space brakes. This ship actually does not have a lot of space brakes, and I've kind of done that for fun because then we can even do more on the tail stand. And then also, once I get down to the surface, I want to show you how a good way to practice for landing like this. And I definitely recommend you don't go and try this straight off the bat. Don't load your ship up with 1 kiloton of lithium and and try to kiloton of lithium. That'd be a lot of large containers. Don't try and do that and land just right off the bat. You should try this technique at least once, or know your ship can do a more basic technique before re-entering, because if you mess this technique up, it's sometimes not good. And I also want to remind you that the engines have a warm-up time, so keep that in mind, that for a certain period, you're actually just falling and there's no thrust. Now, I'm getting pretty close to the planet, so I'm going to go ahead and do a turn and burn maneuver where I turn on the engines and decelerate as fast as possible. Keep in mind that as you re-enter the atmosphere, you want to be going about 1,000 kilometers per hour. That's a general rule. You won't be burning at that speed. Some ships, like this one, can be going much faster, but it uses techniques that allow that to be possible. I feel like I'm watching a SpaceX live stream. Like, entry burn complete. On course for drone ship landing, even though we're actually landing in a runway. So I actually know my runway is in that direction. I'm going to line my ship up with it. So before I do it, I'm going to go ahead and explain what I'm going to do. I'm going to come down on my brakes and on my thrusters until the ship actually tips forward. Like once I hit maybe 0 kilometers per hour, then I'm actually going to tip the ship forward and then burn until the wings get lift. It's a little bit sketchy, but it works, and you'll just have to trust me on that. So, under 2,000, the particles have stopped. We're going to go ahead and take the ship down to a safe speed. You should do this way before re-entry. In my case, I'm doing it at like 10,000 kilometers. Or, sorry, 10 kilometers. I'm at a safe altitude. My brakes are still holding the ship up, which is great, so no need for thrust quite yet, but that won't last forever. You should also keep in mind the amount of atmospheric brakes you have, because that makes a huge difference on how successful your landing is. Now, before you get down to about 4,000 meters, you want to be going real slow, because right about 3,000 to 4,000 meters, neither of your engines are working, and that's just going to be a dead fall. You could try to re-enter at 1,000, but if your engines aren't sufficient, then that's going to be a big failure. Beautiful sunrise overlay out here. North Pole tends to have some beautiful scenery. We like it here a lot. So we're getting down into that dead zone now. I am still floating successfully on my brakes. Now, if your ship isn't actually too heavy, you can actually start going vertical again, and I believe I can with this ship. Alright, so now the brakes aren't working anymore, and you can see that I'm accelerating now, so we're actually going to gun it on the engines. And as you can see, now I'm slowing down. I'm still holding my brakes. And as you can see, the ship is slowly coming to a stop. And I'm actually doing it really gradually because I want to be low-ish in the atmosphere when I tip the ship forward. If I'm not low in the atmosphere, then the wings won't get lift and we'll be plummeting again, and it'll be a problem. So we're going to wait until maybe 1,000 meters or so. So I'm going to go ahead and take the ship down to 0 kilometers per hour, and then right when it hits 0, we're going to tip the ship forward at a 45-degree angle, and then line up with the trajectory, and now we're flying. And that is how you do the suicide burn method. Like I mentioned, in some cases your engines aren't going to be powerful enough, so don't be afraid to splash down in the water. And I can actually go ahead and show you how that works. I'm not sure the skill level of some of the people watching, but this is definitely a good tip to know, especially if you're not planning on surviving your re-entry. Even on planets like Jago, the oceans are extremely deep, and it can be greatly used to your advantage. So as you can see, I can go all the way down in this ocean, but even as I'm down here, my boosters still work. So like, if I'm falling really far from the ground, let's look at this for example. I can go, like, I'm going real fast, and I can actually use the water as a buffer zone to bring my ship back up. And anyway, that's a really useful safety feature. If it's your first time flying a big ship, definitely try doing a landing in the water first, because you're not going to blow anything up, and we don't want anything to blow up. Let's see if I can actually not blow up while I come on my runway. So now I want to show you how you can practice with the tail stand maneuver. Do it with a ship that doesn't have a lot of warm-up speed, or doesn't have a lot of warm-up time on the engines. This one isn't ideal because it's using medium engines, but you can still get the point. If I open up my trajectory, I can actually figure out just about how much thrust I need to hover the ship on its tail. And you should kind of learn how to do this because it actually, because the wings are backwards, you actually get a lot of torque on the ship when it's vertical like this. That makes it feel like it wants to go off course. So a little bit of practice kind of knowing how the ship behaves is really, really useful. As you can see, I mean, I've done it a few times. You'll probably struggle when you do this for your first time, but that's okay. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Hopefully this was useful to you guys. If you're interested in Dual Universe, there's a link in the description, and if you're interested in joining Zenith Corporation, there's a link to our Discord where you can go and fill out an application. Hopefully Voxelmancy Part 3 will be coming out soon, and that will probably be the last part to the series. If you have any other ideas for videos, shoot me a comment, and I read all of those, so I'll get back to you. This video was actually suggested by a comment, and I said I'd do it, so here we are. Anyway, once again, I hope this was helpful. I'll see you guys later.